Understanding the 100 Dharmas, composed by Vasubandhu Bodhisattva, translated by Tripitaka Master Xuan Zang of the Tang Dynasty. English, by City of 10,000 Buddhas. www.cttbusa.org. The Translator, translated by Tripitaka Master Xuan Zang. Now we will discuss the Translator. The Shastra was composed in Sanskrit, the language of India, thus it had to be translated in order to be studied by those of other countries. If it had not been translated, then only Indian people would have been able to understand it, and people of other countries would not have had a chance to learn from it. The person who translated this sutra, therefore, has a lot of merit and virtue. If because of studying this Shastra we are able to understand all Dharmas and rely upon Dharmas to cultivate, we have the translator to thank in part. Thus, to begin we should know who the translator was and what contributions he made to Buddhism.
The monk from Tang. This monk was of the Tang Dynasty. His contributions to Buddhism were exceptionally great. It can be said that from ancient times to the present, there has never been anyone who can compare to this Dharma Master in his achievements. His secular surname was Chen. His father was an official, but a poor one. Why did he end up poor? It was because he did not take bribes. He was not after the citizens' money, nor that of the government. He was not like officials these days who always feel they are earning too little money so that, on top of their government salary, they try to get the citizens' hard-earned money as well. Dharma Master Xuan Zang's father did not want money. He remained a poor official his entire life. Even though he was poor, he had a virtuous nature. And because of that, among his several children he had 2 sons who became monks. Dharma Master Xuan Zang's elder brother was a monk who lectured on Sutras and was an adept cultivator of his time.
Dharma Master Xuan Zang became a monk and commenced his study of the Buddha Dharma at the age of 13. During those early years of study, any time a Dharma Master lectured on a Buddhist text, no matter who the Dharma Master was or how far away the lecture was being held, he was sure to go to listen. Whether it was a Sutra lecture, a Shastra lecture, or a Vinaya lecture, he went to listen to them all. Wind and rain could not keep him away from lectures on the Tripitaka, to the point that he even forgot about being hungry. He simply consumed the Dharma, taking the Buddha Dharma as his food and drink. He did this for 5 years, and then he received the complete precepts. However, the principles he had heard Dharma Masters lecturing on during those 5 years were all different. They all explained the same sutras in very different ways, each with his own interpretation. And there was a big difference between the lectures of those with wisdom and those without wisdom. But Dharma Master Xuan Zang had not yet really opened enlightenment and he did not have the Dharma selecting eye, so how could he know whose lectures to rely on? At that time he vowed to go to India, saying, the Buddha Dharma was transmitted from India, and so there is certainly true and genuine Buddha Dharma to be found in India.
Thereupon, he wrote a request for permission to go to India to seek the Dharma, and presented it to the emperor. The Emperor Taizong of the Tang Dynasty did not grant his wish. But Dharma Master Xuan Zang, who was already resolved to go, said, I would prefer to disobey the Son of Heaven and have my head cut off than not to go to India seeking the Dharma. So he returned to the monastery and began to practice mountain climbing. He piled chairs, tables, and benches together to simulate mountains, and practiced jumping from one piece of furniture to the next. That was his method of practicing mountain climbing. From morning until night he leaped from table to chair. Probably there were not any big mountains where he lived, so he had to practice in the temple. All the young, middle-aged, and elder novices wondered what he was up to, jumping on furniture all day long instead of reciting sutras or cultivating. He did not tell anyone that he was training to climb the Himalayas, so most people thought he was playing. Eventually he trained his body so that it was very strong, and then when he was physically able, he started his trip through Siberia.
On the day of his departure, when the Emperor Taizong learned that he intended to go even without imperial consent, the emperor asked him, I have not given you permission, and you still insist on going. When will you be back? Dharma Master Xuan Zang replied, look at that pine tree. The needles are pointing toward the west. When those needles turn around and face east, I will return. He did not say how many years that would be. So he set out. At that time there were no airplanes, steamboats, buses, or trains. There were boats, but they were made of wood and were not too sturdy. Furthermore, since he did not have imperial permission, he probably could not have gotten the use of a boat anyway. So he traveled by land through many countries, from the Siberian area of the Russian border to India. He was gone for more than a decade.
When he reached India, he did not know the language at all. But gradually he studied Sanskrit, and over time he listened to many Indian Dharma masters lecture on the Buddha Dharma. Some people say this took him 14 years. Others say it took 19. In general, he went through a great deal of suffering and difficulty to study the Buddha Dharma, and then, when he had completed his studies, he returned to China. When his return was imminent, the needles on the pine tree turned to the east. As soon as the emperor saw that the pine needles were indeed pointing east, he knew that Dharma Master Xuan Zang was returning, and he sent out a party of officials to the western gate to welcome and escort him back. When they reached the gate, there, indeed, was Dharma Master Zang returning. Dharma Master Xuan Zang then concentrated on translating the sutras and other works that he had brought back with him. He translated from Sanskrit to Chinese. When he was translating the Great Prajna Sutra, the peach trees blossomed 6 times within that one single year. That was a sign of the auspiciousness of the Great Prajna Sutra and its importance to all of us. The fact that it was being translated moved even the wooden trees and plants to display their delight.
Dharma Master Xuan Zang translated a great many sutras. While in India, he bowed to the Buddha's sharira, his relics, teeth, and bones. He saw where the Buddha in a previous life had sacrificed his eyes, and went to the place where the Buddha in a previous life had sacrificed his head. He visited the location where the Buddha in a former life had practiced the conduct of patience, and went to the site where the Buddha in a previous incarnation had given up his body for the sake of a tiger.
He also went to see the Bodhi tree under which the Buddha had sat and accomplished the way. He went to all of those places celebrated in Buddhism. Those pilgrimages are another indication of the extent of his true sincerity. While in India, whenever he met Dharma masters, he never looked down on them, no matter whether they cultivated or not. He was extremely respectful. He was not the least bit arrogant or haughty. When he finished his studies, many small vehicle Dharma masters and masters of externalist ways came to debate with him, but none was able to defeat him. Dharma Master Xuan Zang is known as a Tripitaka Master. Tripitaka means 3 stores, 3 baskets. The Tripitaka includes the Sutra store, the Shastra store and the Vinaya store. He was honored with this title because he understood all 3 stores without any obstruction and could explain them all.
2 meanings of Dharma Master. 1. One who bestows the Dharma upon people. 2. One who takes the Dharma as his master. As to his name, Xian means esoteric and wonderful. He was esoteric in the sense that none could really understand him. Zang means awe-inspiring. He was awe-inspiring in that he could do what others could not do. He was an outstanding person among his peers. His wisdom surpassed all those around him. He is the one who translated this Shastra on the door to understanding the 100 Dharmas into Chinese. Because the Dharma Master understood both Chinese and Sanskrit, he did not make mistakes in his translations of the Sutras, and his translations of Shastras are even more reliable. The 3-cart patriarch at that time, Dharma Master Xuan Zang, had more than 800 bhikshus helping him.